Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the 8.13 AD carry bot lane tier list. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check out my support tier list for 8.13. I just released that yesterday. I've got a link for you here in the Google Doc, and I also have my new meta explanation video. If you're still kind of confused, you're like, why are we seeing mages in the bot lane sometimes? Why are we seeing bruisers? Are AD carries still viable? What's up with that? Be sure to check out my new meta explanation video that I did a couple of weeks ago when this first started happening. I still think it's very accurate. You can find this Google Doc in the description, and you can also find timestamps if you don't have time to watch the whole video, so be sure to check it out. So, not a lot got shaken up as far as the tier list goes this time. A couple of things got shuffled around as the meta's kind of settled out over the last couple of weeks. I think most of what I predicted was pretty accurate with what was going to happen on 8.12. Got a little nerf to Lucian, significant nerf to Xayah, but I still think that she's pretty good with the Rageblade nerf, that is. But, you know, the tier list is probably going to be pretty similar. So, if you haven't watched one of my tier lists before, then my methodology is this is intended for a plat minus audience. I still think that some diamond people will still find it useful, but this is not for pro level play or challenger level play where the constraints are different, right? Where you have higher coordinated, more highly coordinated teams, that is, higher mechanical skill levels and such. So this is just intended for, you know, the bottom 97% or whatever of players. So this is for, you know, just everyday Joe and Jane playing League of Legends. I think this will be a pretty accurate tier list. Reliability is something that I look at. Hey, Rory, what are you doing? So, you know, it's intended for a broader audience, not just for people who one-trick or specialize in a champion. So, for instance, if you one-trick Vayne, you have 2,000 games on Vayne, can you still win with her in this meta? Absolutely. But, you know, most people who don't specialize in Vayne aren't going to have a great time on her. So, just keep in mind that I'm not talking to each individual person watching this, but rather I'm talking to a broader audience. Right, Rory? I'm always talking to you, though, Rory. And just keep in mind that the meta affects this as well. So just because... And team compositions also affect it, especially in this particular meta because, you know, something like... I'm trying to think, like Xayah is going to be a lot better if you have a Rakan on your team. So, you know, if you don't have Rakan, she's going to fall down a little bit. But if you do have Rakan, she's going to go up some. Similarly, Brand's going to be highly valuable if the enemy team has, you know, 4 or 5 melee champions, but he's going to be a lot worse if they have, you know, 4 ranged champions with a lot of poke. So a lot of it is kind of meta-dependent, but this is just sort of my best estimation of where I think the champion probably belongs. And, you know, this is very flexible to an extent, too, right? You know, if you're really good on Vladimir right now, then he probably could be tier 1. Right? Or even if you're really good on Misfortune or Varus, they could even be a higher tier. So just keep that in mind, that this is intended for that general audience. So with each one of these picks, I also have a little mini doc that you, if you click on the Google Doc, you can click on the mini doc. It'll tell you recommended items for the champion. And it also has a rating system, runes, and Wikia. So with the rating system, I'm talking about lane pressure. How likely is this champion going to be able to do what they want to do in lane? How much pressure can they put on the lane? Kill threat. How likely is this champion going to get kills in the lane and then outside of the lane as well? Safety. How safe is this champion from ganks? Do they have defensive capabilities? Do they have a lot of mobility? Scaling, how well does this champion do as the game progresses over time? I have a whole video on scaling. If you want to know what that is or how that works, be sure to check out the channel for that. And reliability, like how hard is this champion to play? How easy is this champion to counter? Right, so it's kind of taking both of those into account. Okay, and then speaking of the channel, of which, if you like this video, be sure to check out the rest of the stuff on the channel. We have lots of tier lists, lots of in-depth champion guides. I stream every night starting around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's tons and tons of content, and if you enjoy it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. It does help other people find the channel. Helps out a lot, and it just takes a couple of clicks. So, let's go ahead and get in here. Alright, so Lucian's still going to be the top of the roost. They did give him some nerfs to his ult, which is primarily just geared towards the wave clear, and I think they, like, lowered his attack damage per level by, like, 0.5 or something. It's not going to matter. He's still going to be on top. So we'll see if The wiki wants to cooperate today. It does. Yay. Hopefully it'll work for the other ones. So what makes Lucian really strong is that he has very good itemization that doesn't involve crit. Crit is still kind of in the dumpster. If you're playing a champion that requires a lot of crit, then it's probably not going to be a great champion right now. But he doesn't. So that's great. So he benefited heavily from the Blade of the Ruined King going down from 3,400 gold to 3,200 gold because each double shot triggers Blade of the Ruined King, so that's very helpful. And then Black Cleaver is really good with him too because he has so many abilities that he can sling. He's kind of like a spell slinger, 80 carry, so he can stack up that Black Cleaver really quickly, and the percentage armor that you shred also applies to Blade of the Ruined King, so it's your blade procs do more damage. So it's just great. And you also have the ability to get Vamp Scepter in lane, which is really nice because they just nerfed all of the health regen on the 80 carries, so he can sustain through. Particularly if you don't have a healer, which is also becoming less common. So if you don't have a Sona or a Soraka or something like that in lane, then he can sustain himself with that. So really good laning phase, really good itemization, great power spikes at the first and second item with Blade of the Ruined King and then Black Cleaver. Then he also has the option, if he wants to go Essence Reaver next, which can be really strong. Some people will go Phantom Dancer for a little bit more burst at that point, but I still think that the Essence Reaver is a pretty good build on him. You could also go for, you know, like a Last Whisper item if you needed one of those, if they do have some tanks. So I think he has a lot of flexibility. You can also go Ninja Tabby if you need to. Attack speed is really good on him, but it's not as necessary as it is on some of the other champions out there. So if you're against, you know, a really heavy damage assassin that's getting fed, a Talon, a Zed, something like that, then being able to get Ninja Tabby is pretty useful. So he's really good. He has, you know, diverse itemization. He does have short range, which is kind of a problem, but, you know, you're not playing against a Caitlyn, Jinx, Kog'Maw, that type of stuff as much in lane anymore. So, you know, the 500 range doesn't matter as much. If you're laning against Kaisa, she only has 525, and she has a pretty weak early game, so that sort of bypasses a lot of his weakness over the last couple of years is this very short range. Also, you're playing against a lot of melee champions now. You aren't playing against as many poke or long range type of champions, and so that meta makes it really good for him as well because he doesn't have to worry as much about his positioning and survivability because there's not as much, as many ranged sorts of attacks going on. Okay, so yeah, Lucian's still top of the roost, very strong. I have Kaisa up here at number 2. Now, Blade of the Ruined King did get a pretty significant nerf on this patch in the sense that max stack Blade only gives you 15% extra AP and 15% extra AD instead of the 25%, so that's a 40% reduction. That's a pretty big deal, or I guess it used to be 24. Used to be 24%, now it's 15%. So whatever that number is, it's like 36% reduction. So that does hurt her, but she's still extremely strong, and you still just go the AP build, just the Ginsus into Nashers into Death Cap a lot of times. Although I think that, I haven't seen this experimented with that much, but I think Essence Reaver would be really good on her as well. It gives you more Acathian Reigns, gives you more Supercharge stacks, and it would allow you to get the upgraded Acathian Reign even faster. So, you know, I think there are other builds that are possible on her. Whether they be, you know, something like Essence Reaver into Blade of the Ruined King or Essence Reaver into Gunblade or something like that. Gunblade would be interesting because that would give you really high burst damage, but I know people were experimenting around with that back in the day. I think that people still like to work off of her passive, though, so you just want as much attack speed as possible, and the Ginsus, whenever it triggers that double hit, it stacks your passive even faster, so that you get more of this, you know, burst damage for their missing health. So that's really why Ginsu's is strong, is because of that double hit damage still, and how fast it stacks up your passive. So, you know, that means that she's not going to be nearly as strong in fights if you go for that Ginsu's build, where you just kind of show up and start fighting. You really need to start hitting stuff like either jungle camps or lane minions, and then get into a fight once it's fully stacked. So if you just roll up and just start fighting people, it's not going to be as efficient. You'd rather have, if you're just kind of doing Clown Fiesta style, you'd probably rather have the upgraded Acathian Reign faster, because you don't upgrade this at all, hardly, if you go for the AP build, which kind of sucks. But this was something that they nerfed a while back also. They took it down to 6 missiles. I think it used to be... Upgraded used to be 12 missiles, I think, instead of 10. But anyways, that's still what everybody's doing on Kaisa, I'm pretty sure. Let me see. It's just the AP build, so it did get nerfed. Still pretty strong. Yeah, pretty much everybody's going Nashers. There are a couple of people. Wit's End is another interesting one that I've always thought about, that people just don't get on her because you get that bonus attack damage and it shreds magic resist. So I would be curious to see if going something like, you know, Tabby, Nashor's Tooth, Wit's End could work. Now this guy was going jungle. Or no, maybe he was getting funneled. I'm not sure. She's still really popular with the funnel build. Yeah, pretty much everybody's still on that Ginsu Nashor's build, so it's still really effective. She still has a good win rate, so she got knocked down a little bit, but I think that her scaling is still so extreme that it doesn't matter. She's still going to be really good. And the fact that she does a lot of AP damage is really helpful, too, if you have an all-AD team. So if you have, like, a Graves or a Zen in the jungle, and then you've got your Talon mid and your top lane Irelia, the fact that she can step in and do a lot of magic damage is really helpful. If your team has all AP for some reason, then you can get an AD build and still be effective. So very versatile, excellent scaling, pretty good utility in her kit. Pretty good survivability with her shield, too. I think the shield scales pretty well off of AP also. Not as much as it does off of AD, but still pretty good. So you can get a pretty big shield off of that. So yeah, Kaisa is still going to be very strong. Kind of weak in the laning phase, but very, very good as the game goes on. Okay, Draven... still going to be up here. You notice Kaisa doesn't use crit either. That's a very common theme with a lot of these top-end AD carries. Draven, going to be very strong because he has really high base damage from the very beginning of the game, and he doesn't have to build crit off of his first item. A lot of times, I think people are building Bloodthirster these days. In the past, people have also gotten Death's Dance. So, the reason that he doesn't need the attack speed as much and that he can do things like that is because he has extremely high scaling off of his Q. So, and I've done the math in a past video before, but basically he comes to lane with his Q, he gets 35 bonus physical damage and 65% of your bonus AD damage. So it's almost like he walks into lane with a free BF sword whenever he hits you. So he gets like 1,300 gold for free when he starts attacking you, and that's why it feels like he hits like a truck. And he gets basically double the benefit off of AD. So if you get 100 AD, not only does your basic attack do 100 damage, but if you have a maxed out Q, once you get to level 9, then you do an additional 105% of that damage. So it's basically like with your Q that you have a permanent crit. If you want to think of it that way, you always crit when you get to this level because it doubles your AD. So that's why just getting items with flat, large amounts of AD are really strong because they synergize so well with him. And most fights don't last that long with him, right? So he's going to hit you like 3 times and you're dead, right? Either you're going to kill him or he's going to hit you 3 times and you're dead. So that's also, once again, why he doesn't need as much attack speed, because the fights aren't going on long enough for attack speed to matter in these kind of early game skirmishes when he's trying to get ahead. And he has really high damage off of his ult too. You know, just the first hit is 110% bonus AD. So that's pretty good. And he has some built-in attack speed into his kit too. So basically he doesn't have to itemize crit. He hits like a truck and he can snowball really hard off of the early game. So I think a lot of people are probably, let's see what they're getting these days. I think they still get the Bloodthirster build. Yeah, pretty much Bloodthirster, and he's pretty good with Stormrazor too, because that guarantees you that crit. Now Stormrazor, I think, is an item that is overbought on a lot of people, but with Draven it actually makes sense because the fights don't last that long. So if you get a crit on your very first hit, right, you get that crit plus the Q damage plus just the base damage, you're really going to hit very hard. And the fact that you kill him in 2 or 3 hits doesn't matter. So if you buy this on this item on champions that need a long time to stack up, so like Xayah, for example, it loses so much of its efficiency because, yeah, your first hit does a lot of damage, but she's not designed to kill people with her first hit, right? She wants to get a lot of feathers on the ground and then draw all of them back to do a lot of damage. So, you know, I think on champions that just want to show up and burst and blow people up, like Jhin, Draven, Twitch, Stormrazor's a lot better, but on sustained damage people who need to sit there and auto-attack for quite a while, you know, someone like a Jinx, Tristana, I just mentioned Xayah, I think that Stormrazor's a little overrated. But either way, it's still very, very good on Draven. Rapid Fire Cannon's another one that like could be okay on him. You know, just because, once again, it's all about getting that first hit, that huge damage, that big crit. I think that's what I would go for. And what's the order? Are people still going Bloodthirster first? Or are they going Stormrazor first, which kind of makes sense. You don't get as much sustain in the lane. I guess he has kind of an odd build. He got a Vamp Scepter early. It looks like he sold it at some point. Or I don't know what was going on with this build. But yeah, that's a strength of his too, is that he benefits his Q. That extra damage gives him lifesteal. So that's why he lifesteals so much in lane off of that. So I still think it's probably Bloodthirster into Stormrazor, but I guess you could do it the other way around. But those are the two items that you want to start with most of the time on him. And it's a pretty strong build right now. So yeah, I think Draven's really good. Now, he is hard to play, so you have to practice him, but he does have a lot of power. Okay, and then we run into our first mage here, which is going to be Brand. Now, I like Brand as the #1 mage for the bot lane because he's very efficient even if you fall behind. So he does provide a lot of lane pressure, a lot of kill threat. And then if they have, you know, at least four melee champions on their team, even 3 is still pretty good, then your ultimate is just a complete beast, is completely wrecks team fights. The reason that you don't see him in mid lane and that he's better bot lane is that you can make sure that you convert those hits to actual kills, right? So whenever you get your 3-hit combo, usually you can't kill them all by yourself, but if you have a support to help you out, it helps a ton. Also, they can hold them still, so if like Alistar engages on them, then that's going to practically guarantee that you're going to hit your skill shot. So he's just really good at following up if other people can crowd control someone and hold them still. And if they can just do that little bit of extra damage early on to complement your super high damage, then you can definitely convert those to kills. You also get extra protection in the bot lane, right? So someone can peel for you, someone can ward for you to make sure you don't get ganked. One of the big problems in mid lane with someone like Brand is he's very vulnerable. If you get ganked, if nobody peels people off of you, then you're probably going to die. So he's really vulnerable in the mid, but with that extra protection, he can really leverage that in the bot lane very well. So he has excellent harass, excellent team fight damage. He has a magic damage option, which is really good. Once again, if you have the Graves jungle, Irelia top, Talon middle, you know, type of all AD team. So I've had Brand on my team a couple of times, and I really like him. Because once again, even if you fail early, you can always just press R in a team fight, and you're going to have a huge contribution to the fight. So I think that Brand is a total beast right now. Even in the AD carry slot, he's very good as support as well for the same reasons. But his AD carry, you know, when you get more items on him, he still does a ton of damage. So I think that Brand's excellent. Now, if you're going for the AD carry version of Brand, I think that getting Ludens is probably where you would want to be. If you're going the support version, I think you have to go Rylai's Leandre's, but I think you can afford to get Ludens early if you are the AD carry slot, and that'll help you with your wave clear a lot more because you'll have more mana regen, you'll have the CDR, and all of that. So Brand is my favorite non-traditional AD carry right now in the bot lane. Very strong option. Okay, I did move Ezreal up a little bit. I had a couple of days where I played a lot of Ezreal this week, just kind of for fun, just to mix stuff up. I didn't end up with like a hugely successful play rate. It wasn't that bad, but I did have some good games on him. I did learn a little bit about Ezreal. So he is a little bit slow out of the gate, you know, because he has to get tier to start with. But once he gets that Sheen and the Mana Immune, he actually does quite a bit of burst damage. So if you have someone that engages and starts a fight, you know, you're pretty sure you're going to win the fight. If you E forward and then auto Q and hit somebody, that's quite a bit of burst. And if you hit him with an ult, obviously that's a lot of burst too. But he just has so much poke, and he can like farm from so far back that it makes it really hard to gank him, which is nice. And if your support wants to roam, you know, if you have an Alistar or a Blitzcrank or something like that on your team and they just want to roam and abandon you bot lane, then that's fine. You can still farm. That's great. You know, if your support's a turkey and they won't peel for you, or if they pick some kind of weird support that wouldn't help out an AD carry with less range, or if they're playing just super passive, just standing behind you, Ezreal can usually work around that. So he's just very versatile regardless of sort of your support's champion select or their behavior, or whether or not you're getting ganked and camped, he can still function. So it makes him very consistent in that respect. And then also you can control the side waves really, really well with that ultimate. It's so nice just to be able to ult, hit that side wave, you know, when your team's positioning for a major objective, just to make sure that those waves aren't going to go against you. Now, you do lose that ult for the team fight, so you kind of have to, you know, weigh against that. You have to be careful when you're using your ult. But you do get it back up pretty quickly. It comes back within like 30 seconds if you're consistently hitting Qs on minions. So I think that makes him very strong. He also has some decently diverse itemization. He can go Ninja Tabby if he has to. You know, he can go Vladimir and King. He can go for a double tier build. There are a lot of different builds you can go with him. So, you know, the downside is you don't do a ton of sustained damage early. You just have poke. And, you know, if your support tries to go all in, or if you need to do... If you're against someone who scales really hard and you can't pressure them, if you're against like a Twitch or you're against a Xayah, you know, that can be a big problem because you're not going to be able to stop them from farming probably early on. So he's pretty weak early, but he actually does pretty good, relatively sustained damage later on. So you can just throw that Q like every second if you're hitting them in fights later on. So that can make him pretty difficult to deal with. So if your team already has a lot of damage, then he can be a pretty good option and add a little bit of range, a little bit of poke, a little bit of diversity in there. So I think that he can be pretty good, has pretty good itemization options. Just the issue is you can't ever get caught by anything. You have to be super safe, and you have to be able to consistently hit quite a bit of your Qs. So I have seen some really good Ezreals on my team. I've seen some really bad Ezreals on my team. He's one of the most difficult AD carries to play. But I do think that he can be pretty good in this meta, and he didn't really get affected by the crit nerfs and, you know, the nerfs to Xayah, nerfs to Lucian, things like that. He really hasn't been touched that much. So if the game slows down just a little bit more, they already slowed the game down a little bit by lowering death timers and by giving more shutdown gold and things like that, then he gets stronger because that gives him more time to get his tier going. But I still think he deserves a slot in tier 1 just because of how good his potential is right now as AD carry. I was even able to get some pretty dang good games on him, and I've only played him a handful of times. So I think you just have to have the right play style with him to play him at just sort of a competent level. Okay, now we're going down to tier 2 here. Xayah. Now, people were telling me I was crazy when I had Xayah up over the last couple of tier lists. I still said she was going to be tier 1, tier 2. And I think a lot of people still haven't really figured out the best build on her. So she's pretty strong. She does combo very well with Rakan, and that's a huge part of it, especially in the professional scene. She gets that 20% extra damage on her W when she's near Rakan, which is a very big deal. But she's just a pretty good, well-rounded AD carry. She has very good wave clear, which is great with her passive. She has great protection with her Featherstorm. And then she has really good sort of just teamfight presence and, you know, just burst damage off of her Blade Caller that also can potentially stun people. So I think that she's pretty good, and she's very underrated by a lot of people. Now, she's fairly difficult to use as well because you have to position so that you're going to get those feathers and pull them back onto you. But she's very good against teams that group up, once again. So if they have a lot of melee champions, they're just trying to ball up and fight. And people that want to chase her. So she's not very good at running people down, but she's excellent at kiting people and then using that Blade Caller to stun them. Now, a lot of people are going for the Storm Razor on her. And as I just explained a little bit ago, I really don't like that build that much on her just because I think that she's not really a burst champion. Like, yeah, the first hit matters, but really she just wants to put a lot of, you know, feathers on the ground and then call them back to her. So I think that something that's really unexplored with her is the potential of going something like Vladimir and King on her. Now, it's important to keep in mind that her passive does not trigger the blade with each time the feather hits somebody. So the feathers can hit multiple people, but Blade only affects the first person that gets hit by it. The reason that it works with Twitch, when every single shot from his ultimate hits everybody, every single person gets hit by Blade the Ruined King, because it specifically says it in the Twitch ability, the R, it says applies on-hit effects to each person hit, right? That does not apply to Xayah, though. So if you have 3 people lined up, you know, throw your passive. When you auto-attack somebody, it carries through and does that 50% extra damage to other targets. It would only do the Blade proc on the first person, not all 3. So that's why Blade the Ruined King is not ridiculously overpowered on her. Nevertheless, I still think that, you know, having that lifesteal and being able to have that attack speed could potentially be pretty good. And I think that going something like Black Cleaver, so kind of like a Lucian build, could be pretty good too. Because each one of those feathers would trigger a Black Cleaver shred on everybody. So if you throw those feathers through 3 people, that would apply the Black Cleaver minus 3%. And the Black Cleaver, you know, taking away the armor would allow your Blade Caller to do a lot more damage when you call those blades back to you. So I think that something like Blade the Ruined King Cleaver could be a decent build on her. Obviously, Essence Reaver seems really good. It is a little awkward because you have to ult to trigger it. And you want to save that ult defensively, but if you use your... a lot of the times. But if you use your ult offensively, then that could be something that could potentially be kind of interesting. But yeah, being able to do multiple Blade Callers in a fight, just get a lot more feathers down with more Qs, more Ws, like the Essence Flare 50% attack speed bonus and refunding all of your stuff. That's really, really good. It's just the fact that your ult, usually you want to save it to use it defensively, could be an issue. But I do like Essence Reaver on her. I'm just not sure about Stormrazor. I mean, how efficient is this item? I mean, it is pretty efficient by itself. I think it's pretty close to 100% when it's not active, from what I remember. I know they just buffed it a little bit. Okay, so it's 105% efficient. And it does give the attack damage, which is good. The thing is, like, you can critically strike with this, but it's not actually critical strike. So it doesn't scale with your E, because your E scales based off your critical strike chance, but that doesn't affect your E right here. So basically, your first hit does extra damage, and you get 20% bonus movement speed. I guess Blade's only 89% efficient, but if you're doing a minimum of 29 on-hit damage, which would be if the target's current health is 362 or higher. So that means that when you're attacking somebody, you know, if they have a grand total of something like 720 health or something like that, then over time, as you kill them, you would get that 29 on-hit damage, and that would give you 110% efficiency or whatever. So yeah, I mean, you're going to be attacking targets that have more than 720 health when you start hitting them a lot of the time. And a lot of times they're going to have way more than that too, you know. They're going to have like 1,500 health where you're going to get even more on-hit damage. And you get the unique active here that does 100 magic damage and steals their movement speed so that you can kite them better or run them down better. I just feel like this is something that's really underappreciated on Xayah. It's like, yeah, it's lower attack damage, it's lower attack speed, but that bonus is really nice, even against fairly squishy targets, and the lifesteal is pretty good, even against fairly squishy targets. So I think that's something that could be good on Xayah. I think that could be good, especially as a single item power spike, especially if you combine it with Black Cleaver, which is great. 20% CDR gives you more survivability. And allows you to shred that armor on everybody, which is going to be really good with your E. So I think that's something that just people haven't tried that much. Maha actually, you know, tried it out here. If you want to go Hurricanes, which it looks like more and more people are doing that, so it fires bolts at enemies, and Hurricanes is fantastic with Blade of the Ruined King because each Hurricane bolt applies the Blade of the Ruined King passive. So if you're going to go Hurricane, which it seems like everybody likes to do, then it seems like a no-brainer to me that you would go Blade of the Ruined King instead of Stormrazor. If you do want to go the Stormrazor route, I think that going Rapid Fire Cannon makes sense because you're going for that really powerful first hit. I just don't think that's who Xayah is. Now, some people are skipping Stormrazor and they're just going, you know, Essence Reaver into, you know, Infinity Edge. I'm really not a big fan of Infinity Edge right now. I mean, I guess you could go Rapid Fire. What did Reckless go here? Did you go Essence Reaver? Yeah, Essence, Rapid Fire, Infinity. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I think what they should do, honestly, to fix the crit items is just to take the crit down to 25% on these items and then lower the cost. So lower the cost on Infinity Edge by a couple hundred gold, lower the cost on all of the crit items again by a couple hundred gold, and then decrease the critical strike to 25%. And then it's not as awkward because right now if you go Infinity Edge, double crit item, after that, then you go over 100%, and that just feels really bad. But if it was 25%, then it would go to 50% when you got Infinity Edge, and then if you got another 25% item, then it would go to 100%. So that would fix the problem of going over the cap of 100%, so it's not a feels bad, and it would allow you to lower the cost of the crit item and lower the power of the crit item, because you want to... I think it's better just to lower the power of it a little bit, just to knock off 5%, rather than increase the cost. The cost is just so brutal. So I think that would help out tremendously if they did that. Just lower it to 25%. That would make a lot more sense. But anyway, so I don't know. You can still go the crit build on her. I don't like the Stormrazor build. I know that's what a lot of people get on her. I think that Blade of the Ruined King is really under-researched, particularly in conjunction with Cleaver. Like, he got Cleaver on her in this game. Which, I mean, once again, and the reason that it is so good, because it's area of effect. Because it helps you kite. Also, it has the Phage proc on it, so that's going to give you that 60 extra movement speed. And it has the Blade of the Ruined King, so that'll give you even more movement speed to help you kite even better. And because it hits a bunch of people, then it's going to reduce it all. Like, all those feathers hitting people is going to reduce everybody by 24%, which is going to help out all of your other AD champions on your team. So, I don't know. It feels good to me. But we'll just have to see what other people do with it. I mean, obviously, these people play a ton of games. They have a lot of analysts on their teams and things like that. So there's probably a reason people aren't trying that out. But maybe people just haven't thought of it. I don't know. But, you know, if you don't want to do the Blade of the Ruined King Black Cleaver build, then I think going, like, Essence Reaver into, I don't know, something like Ruinance Hurricane Infinity Edge is probably okay. Or Phantom Dancer Infinity Edge. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So Xayah, I think she is really strong, particularly with Rakan right now. Okay, Vlad is the next mage that I have on here. Now, Vlad is pretty good in professional play. People mess him up a lot in solo queue. He's kind of a strange champion. Like, in lane, you know, you're just kind of spamming your Qs on people, and you've got your pool, which is really nice to escape ganks, and then you're just really hard to kill. You know, you end up with a lot of health, you have a lot of sustain, you can pool to dodge stuff. So he's just really hard for assassins to take down, or for people that are ganking him to take down. I will say, for me at least, playing him in the bot lane, it does feel a little challenging to last hit with him. Especially if you're getting pushed in early on. It's difficult to last hit under tower, because your Q is going to have a long cooldown, your E is not going to do a lot of damage early on, and your auto attacks don't do a lot of damage. So that was something, I tried playing him a couple of times in the bot lane, that was something that's a little awkward, and you're more likely to get pushed in the bot lane also because, you know, they have two people on their team, and depending on who your support is, and if your support helps you manage the lane or not. So that is a concern. But he does do a heck of a lot of team fight damage, kind of like Brand. He just takes a little bit more skill, I think, than Brand. A little bit better positioning. But he can be very, very good if you're good on him. but it's easy to mess up his sequences, especially if you get a lot of item actives. You know, if you're getting your Proto Belt, your Spellbinder, your Zhonya's, all of that, making sure that you manage all of those correctly and sequence your spells for maximum effectiveness. Make sure you're using your Qs on time and you're pooling at the right time and charging your Tides of Blood while you're pooling. And there's a lot of stuff that takes practice and a lot of little tricks you can do with his timings. But he is very strong if you pull him off. So he's just a more durable version of Bran that does slower damage, but is a little bit more safe and a little bit more durable. So yeah, he's pretty strong. Now, Rengar is something that you're not going to see on a lot of tier lists, but I've played with this guy in my games before. Not the same guy, but Rengar is a character. He is very, very strong in the bot lane. So he's kind of your, if you want to pick something with really high burst damage, it's kind of cheesy early on, he's a pretty good pick. Because when he jumps out of that bush, it just does an insane amount of damage. If you have anybody that has aggression early on, you know, if you have an Alistar or a Leona or just anything that can CC and apply pressure early, then he can definitely run away with it. And if he just gets 1 or 2 kills, it's just off to the races. And he can, you know, ult, run around the map, and just knock people out. So I think he's really good in the jungle right now. I think he's pretty good top lane and pretty good bot lane. So yeah, just does a ton of damage, has some decent sustain, you know, with his roar. Not like insane health, but it's okay health. With his roar in the laning phase, then obviously his throw of the hunt, his ult, pretty much guarantees you a kill in solo queue most of the time. So if he just gets 1 or 2 kills, gets a little bit ahead, you know, and especially once he gets that Dust Blade, he just completely deletes squishy champions. So if you're laning against some squishies and you have some kind of CC to help you out, the, you know, Rakan, Alistar, Thresh, Pike, just anything that can start a fight and get aggressive, he can snowball out of control really, really quickly. So I think that he's a pretty good option, especially if your team is kind of going for the split and pick comp if you don't have a team fight comp. Because he's obviously not going to be that great at team fighting, but he can definitely run around and Clown Fiesta pick people off. So I think that he's a really good option. You're not going to see him in pro play, but for solo queue, for someone that's experienced on Rengar, I think that he can be fantastic. Okay, Twitch. So tier list might have Twitch down a little bit right now. I think people are sleeping on Twitch. This champion's really strong. They just gave him a little bit of a buff on his E. Actually, quite a lot of a bit of a buff on his E so that it scales even harder with Contaminate. So you get 35 and then 35% of your bonus AD per stack. So people have forgotten that, you know, they're thinking, oh, he can't build crit anymore, or he's a crit champion, and that's bad. Don't forget that before he built that much crit, he would go Blade the Ruined King plus Hurricane. So I think that that could be extremely strong on him. I think that something like Black Cleaver, I mean, he doesn't need his abilities. Like, the thing about Xayah that I think would work with Cleaver is she benefits so much from the CDR because her W, her Q, her E, all of these are very strong abilities. He doesn't really have abilities that need the CDR that much. Like, his ambush gets reset anyways if he gets a kill or an assist. Venom Cast pretty much sucks outside the laning phase. And Contaminate is good. You're not going to do it multiple times in a fight, though. You might. So, you know, you're probably not going to want to do Cleaver on him. But, I mean, you would shred everybody with your ult, and that would allow your Contaminate to do a lot more damage. But I think just going for the pure damage is probably a better option on him. But even so, like, just going Blade the Ruined King into Hurricanes, then you can get your IE after Hurricanes if you want to. Is still really, really strong. I mean, Blade is very good on him because each one of those ult shots applies the Blade the Ruined King. When you have the Hurricane bolts, each one of those bolts also applies Blade the Ruined King. So if you have 3 people stacked up in a row, whenever you ult, your first shot is going to deal the Blade the Ruined King damage to everybody that gets hit, and then your 2 bolts off of Runins is going to apply Blade the Ruined King again off of everybody that gets hit. So you're going to get this blade applying twice on your secondary targets. So it's just an insane amount of damage. I mean, everybody knows this with Twitch. And the thing is, he's invisible. You know, invisible champions are very strong in solo queue. He'll just roll up. You'll have somebody random that's just trying to farm a side lane with no safety, no vision, and he'll just roll up and kill him. And he's pretty good with Stormrazor, too, for that reason. Once he pops out of invisibility, he just blows people up almost instantly. So, and then he gets a reset, and he can just stealth and run away and pick people off. So he's a solo queue warrior. He's always going to be really, really good in solo queue. He's one of the best champions to one trick. He is fairly safe from ganks. Not like super safe, but it's difficult to catch him when he goes invisible. He gets that extra little bit of move speed, and it's hard to catch him a lot of times. So he can be engaged on and killed. He doesn't have any sort of, dashes or defense. So, if the enemy has something like a Leona, it's going to be really bad. But if you get a pushover lane, if you're farming, if you're Twitch and you're against like an Ezreal, or you're against like a Xayah or something else, it's not going to really challenge you that much early on. He's very, very dangerous. So I think that Twitch can be really good. I think he's underpicked a lot. And if you go the Blade Run King, you can also end up getting a Vamp Scepter early on, which is really nice too. So yeah, most people have switched over to the Blade build on him. Blade Hurricane, classic build, and then the game's probably over before you can complete an item after that. Yeah, pretty good. Doesn't seem to be much consensus on which rune to get on him. I think that Press the Attack is probably still the best. So people are trying Halo Blades. Halo Blades could be okay on him because he can use Sudden Impact when he pops out of invisibility. He would get the lethality, which can be kind of helpful, but I still think Press the Attack's probably the way to go with him, because you want to be sneaking up on people and then just, opening up on them, getting that press the attack trigger, and then contaminating to blow them up. So he's pretty good if you're against fairly passive laners. He's also getting played in the jungle some. As you can see, he has a really potent cheese level 2, where he comes up invisible with red buff. It almost always works, especially at gold and lower. Get that red buff, just go to either mid or bot lane, or just whichever, top lane, wherever's close to the red buff, and it's pretty much a free kill. Almost always, you'll find at least one laner that's pushed up, that's not paying attention, and they just die. So, yeah, so I think he's really good, underappreciated. Now, he's not going to be great in every lane. He can get pressured and bullied out early, but if he's allowed to just sit there and farm, or if he gets to that Blade Run King, watch out. He is definitely a force. Okay, Irelia is another one. She did just get nerfed on this patch, but I've seen her in a few games. She is still quite strong. She's one of the better bruisers in the bot lane. She is pretty mobile. She has quite a bit of utility with her ultimate. So she's okay. I mean, there's not a ton to say here. Everyone who's watched any pro play has seen her in pretty much every lane. But I think that she is pretty good. She's very mobile in team fights, has pretty good AoE damage, nice stun. She's on the difficult side to play, so you have to, really practice her. Make sure you're getting that flawless duet. Make sure you're sequencing your spells correctly to get those Blade Surge resets. But she is a pretty strong bot. She did just get nerfed a little bit, however. She is a melee champ, so she is going to be very vulnerable to champions like Xayah, like Brand. And she's pretty vulnerable to ganks. But, once she gets that Trinity Force, she can definitely start putting down a ton of damage. So, I think that's pretty good, especially if your team doesn't have much durability, if you don't really have any tanks on your team. She's difficult to kill. I wouldn't call her a tank per se, but, you can have that extra little bit of toughness from the AD carry position and still do a lot of damage with Irelia. So I think that makes her a pretty good hybrid build. Next, we have another traditional AD carry. We have Jhin. So I think Jhin is a little overplayed right now. I think that people pick him a lot more than they probably should. He does have some nice synergy with Stormrazor. But at the end of the day, he does want a lot of crit. He scales really well off of crit, and crit is just very expensive. So it's just not going to be that great on him right now. So if you can get a big enough lead early on, just off of your Stormrazor, then he can be pretty good. But, past that, it gets a bit tougher. The Rapid Fire Cannon, Stormrazor build can be pretty strong. I don't like Essence Reaver at all on him because Like, why would you open up with your ult in the middle of a fight? You need to do that from a long, safe distance away at the end of a fight. You know, some people are opting for kind of the Ghostblade build as double lifted here. So that's pretty decent too. That does give you the move speed, does kind of double down on his early game power. Yeah, I still think that Stormrazor Rapid Fire is the way to go. But you have to get really far ahead early, because once you have to start building those crit items, it just gets very expensive and it just starts feeling pretty bad. But against squishy targets, he is pretty good. He's terrible against tanks. But against squishies, he's great. You can kill him in 1 or 2 shots, especially once you complete that Stormrazor. So if you have a very aggressive support to go with you in the bot lane, you have that Alistar, you've got a Leona, Brand, something like that that can help you do some damage. You can snowball really hard early on. So he's probably one of the best early game aggressive champions. He's like right up there with like Draven, I think, in terms of early pressure. Lucian. Then he can be pretty good. So he does have nice wave clear with his grenades early on. He does have the utility of his ult to be able to, you know, snipe people out there trying to run away. So cool champion, fun champion, fairly difficult to play. You know, you have to be able to hit those ult shots. You have to be able to hit those W's on people and position correctly, because you will get punished really hard if you're out of position. You don't have any escapes other than just critting somebody and trying to run away. But he can be pretty strong. I just think he's a little overhyped. He is fun to play, but I feel like there are better options a lot of the time. But in the right circumstances, especially if you're good on him, he can be good. Okay, Yasuo is another one. In theory, you know, if you're an awesome one-trick Yasuo, you know, maybe he goes up to tier 1. But realistically, you know, most people that play him are not going to be that great on him, especially at kind of lower elo points. He's extremely hard to play. He's one of the most difficult champions in the game, in fact, to play correctly. So he's all right. I mean, Windwall is obviously very good against AD carries. You do have a support to help you out in the bot lane, especially if you get something like an Alistar is very common. That's super good level 6, obviously. So he can apply a lot of pressure if you have the right kind of support. And you get that extra protection from the support peeling and the wards, so that you can play more aggressively and not get punished for it like you would in the mid or the top lane. So that's very nice. And then if you have a knock-up support, you know, setting up your ultimate, that's obviously really good too. So he can be very strong. He does have good itemization. It did get more expensive with the crit changes, right? But even once he just gets Phantom Dancer, he can be very strong. And then Affinity Edge obviously is a huge power spike for him. So he has a pretty good single item power spike, really good second item power spike. So, you know, I think he can be really good. You just have to practice him. You have to be good on him. He's very difficult to play. That's why he's down a little bit more, but he can be good. All right, the most controversial one is Misfortune. I forgot to put her thing in there again. I'll have to add it in later, but have her a lot lower, and she's going to be the highest win rate overall. I believe 80 carry right now. Just pulling her up here. Yeah, she's going to be one of the highest win rate ones. Yeah, she's still at 53.8. But I never see it in the games that I play, at least. I never see it. You know, you can hit those double ups and it does a lot of damage. She does apply a lot of pressure early. In theory, she's good early on. She does have the movement speed, so she can rotate around the map pretty well. But you want to be able to sit there and channel your ult a lot of the times. And against a bunch of different assassins, I just feel like that's really hard to do because you can get picked off or shut off. But if you have the right kind of team comp, right, of people that can hold people still while you sit there and channel your ult, then she can be really good. So if you have something like a Braum on your team, or maybe an Alistar or something like that, she can be strong. Now, she doesn't synergize very well with either Zeke's or Ardent Sensor, which is kind of rough. But if you're with a tank support and they're just going to be getting something like, you know, Knight's Vow Locket anyways, then she can be pretty strong. So she's all right. If you combine her with a Morgana, she'd be really good because they couldn't stop her from ulting. That could be a nice combo. So yeah, I mean, she's okay. If you have a team that can facilitate and make really good use of her ult, then I think she can be really good, especially if the enemy doesn't have a lot of assassins. But if the enemy has a lot of assassins and you don't have a support that's going to be able to peel very much for you or frontline for you, then that could be problematic. But she's okay. I mean, if you win a lot with her, she's definitely viable. I just feel like I see her fail a lot more than I see her succeed. And a lot of that is just because she's so ult reliant. And if she can't get the correct position, or if the enemy just, you know, gets in her face or is able to assassinate her, then it can be really rough. But once again, in the right situation, she can be really strong. Okay, Varus is another one that I think it's kind of second or third string. You'll pick Varus if, like, Kai'Sa's banned. I think they're very similar. Now, he does have the ultimate that can hold people in place. That's really good for team fights. And most people are just going to build him with an AP build these days, so you're just going to go the Gensu, Nashor, Deathcap, the Kai'Sa build on him. Just because his passive blight stacks do magic damage, and they scale on AP, and then his W triggers that extra 25% on hit damage as well. And then his ult has 100% AP ratio. So it's kind of a weird build, but that's pretty much what everybody's doing on him right now. Kind of like Kai'Sa, where you just stack all that up and do a ton of damage. So he has pretty good utility about him. He has his ult. He has the healing debuff, which is really nice on his E. Does magic damage, pretty low cooldown ultimate with 110 seconds, so he can start fights. He can peel off pretty well. Does that magic damage, so yeah, I think he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Just the problem is he can get picked off. He doesn't have any escapes. I guess you can hit your ult on somebody and peel them off that way, but he just feels a little underwhelming compared to some other options, but he does have the 575 range, and he doesn't have to build crit, so he's okay. He's got good utility. He's just kind of, you know, middle of the line, I think. Viable, but not, like, eye-poppingly impressive most of the time, but can still be pretty solid. And then finally, Mordekaiser is the last honorable mention that I have down here. I did have him up a little bit more. I think I had him in tier 1 last patch. I thought he was going to be a lot stronger than he is. The problem with Mordekaiser, and I tried playing him a little bit in solo queue as well, is he doesn't have any gap closers, so it's really easy to kite him, and he doesn't have a lot of defensive capabilities if assassins or tanks just get to the backline and get in your face if your team doesn't peel. I just remember one game, I was getting pretty fed. I was like 4 or 5-0 with him, and they just kept diving me. This Nocturne just kept ulting and just going straight for me on the backline. And like my Alistar would never peel. And we had someone else on the team also that could peel, but nobody ever would. I was just left to try to 1v1 this Nocturne on the backline, and he was just destroying me every time. Once he got fed, once he got like 5 kills, I just couldn't do anything. So he's okay. He is, like, if you get the correct amount of peel, he can be good. The dragon does help you, take towers. It's tough early on if they zone you off the wave, if you don't get your shield or you don't have a support that can help you push. You can get zoned off before you get a lot of levels of Harvester to help you push the lane. So he kind of has a hard time early, pre-6, and then if you don't have peel later, he can be a big problem. But once again, you know, kind of like some of these other non-traditional options, if you have somebody that can hold them still, if you have the Alistar, or you have, you know, the Thresh or the Blitzcrank or whatever, and you actually get to sit there and hit them a few times, then you can do a ton of damage. And if you get a ghost in a fight and they don't kill you, you're going to win the fight. So if you get the first kill and you ghost them, that basically turns the fight into a 6v4. Because you're going to have the ghost, they're going to be down a person, and then you're definitely going to win the fight if they don't kill you almost immediately to stop that ghost. So yeah, really strong, very interesting champion. You know, does a lot of AP damage, has some really cool abilities like stealing the dragon and his harvester and stuff like that. So I think that he does have potential to be really strong. It's just the, you know, early on it can be kind of tough. His itemization is also fairly strong. Like getting Rylai's early does provide some slow and great utility for your team because the ghosts also apply the slow as they attack people. So that's really nice. And then if you get the Rylai's plus the Liandry's, super, super strong 2-item power spike because your ultimate is basically going to apply that Liandry's with the slow debuff for however many seconds, for 10 seconds. So that's a lot of max health damage. That's a lot. You know, it's like 30% max health damage in addition to, you know, whatever this is, 35%. So you get 30% off of your Liandry's plus 35 here at 65% plus, you know, the 8.75 here. It's like 73, and then the scaling with AP. So you're looking at like 80% of their max health damage or something before magic mitigation. So that's a lot. That's a lot of damage. So, yeah, I think they specifically nerfed Liandry's when they remade it, specifically because of its interaction with Mordekaiser. He used to be able to just put it on somebody and they would just die. With the Liandry's Rylai's combo when he had a couple of points in his ultimate. But it's still very strong. So I think he's in an okay position. If you have the right team comp, you can make him work. Okay, other honorable mentions that you might be able to see. Swain is something that you see sometimes in pro play. I just think he's a little bit too slow. He has to have Rod of the Ages. That takes a while to charge up. But he can be really good. He's sort of like a Vladimir with a bit more CC. So, you know, he could have been in the top. This is the top 15. He could have been in there somewhere. You know, maybe it could be Swain instead of Mord. But he feels a little bit slow to me. Although, to be fair, I haven't seen him very much in person in solo queue in the bot lane. But I think he could be decent. Heimerdinger's somebody that works with very specific comps. I know there are some European teams that are trying him out, like Heimer Fiddle. He's basically serving as a substitute for Caitlyn in terms of just having a push comp with zone of control. So he can do very well with that, right? Where kind of a push, siege comp, zone of control. If you have proper protection for him, then Heimer can be really good. And I think he's fun. I mean, I like seeing Heimer, but at the same time, I don't know if I like seeing him in my solo queue games or not. It feels like it's a little gimmicky, but it could work. I haven't seen it in person. I've seen it professionally work some. I think Heimer just needs a couple of buffs. I really wish they'd buff him because I think he is a unique and very interesting champion. And I've talked about this in the past. If they just did a buff to his grenades just so they didn't cost as much. Let me just pull him up real quick. Oops. So Heimer has a couple of problems in my mind. His grenade costs 85 mana at level 1. That just seems ludicrous to me. I don't know why it costs that much. Like, why not just scaling like 50 to 90 like a normal person, or even just like 50 and then go up 5 per whatever? Is it really that threatening? You know, this grenade that basically only slows people most of the time, but for 35%, has a 12-second cooldown, so you can't spam it anyways. And, like, the stun, if you hit it perfectly right in the middle, is only 1.25 seconds. Like, with a 0.6 ratio. Like, is that really that threatening where it has to be 85 mana at level 1 with a 12-second cooldown? Come on, Rito. Like, 50... scaling up to 90 or whatever would be fine, and then you know, have this scale down, you know, go from like 12 seconds to 8 seconds. I think that would be great. Now, yeah, if he double taps this or whatever, that can be strong, so it can bounce up to 3 times. It can only be damaged once per cast, but you can be slowed or stunned. So, but that uses your ultimate. So this is the biggest thing I think they need to buff, is this. This is ridiculous early on, this cost. This mana cost is pretty high as well. Now, Luden's is very good on him, though, because he gets the CDR, and he gets the mana cost, and he gets a lot of AP under control. Now, the rocket damage... so you can do up to 324 damage. I think this is what most people max. I'm not entirely sure. The people that are playing him in this bot lane capacity. This is okay, though. Like, it's got long range. It's kind of hard to hit. It's sort of awkward. I've actually played Heimer a couple of times. It's sort of awkward to hit this, but that could be interesting. Then his turrets, I think, are okay. They're a little bit low on the damage side. You know, they do like 9 damage or something like that. I mean, they do have a 0.3 ratio, so if you have, you know, 100 AP, then it gets plus 30. So that actually ends up being pretty strong. So he benefits very, very heavily from getting a lot of AP. This is why it always kind of was like, why are people building like Xayah Portal and things like that on this champ? He scales so hard off of AP. But yeah. So he's okay. He has nice zone of control stuff. That big turret does do a lot of damage, though. A lot of damage. And then you also have your little, whatever, your laser shots that you get. Like, he's cool. He's a very interesting champion. I would like to see them explore him a little bit more. And I think the way to buff him that wouldn't be too dangerous is just buff his grenade a little bit. Just make it reasonable. Lower amount of mana. A little bit of a lower cooldown. Rockets are probably fine, like I said. These are fine, or maybe they could use a slight buff. Those are okay. Maybe something a little bit more sexy with his upgrade. Like, give him some kind of something passive to go along with the active. I don't know. He's okay. He's like a couple of steps away, I think, from being, like, a little bit more viable. But right now, he's okay. In certain comps as a substitute for Caitlyn, he's okay. But you still won't see him a lot. Ornn is someone that we saw a couple of times in the bot lane. I just don't think that the tank bot lane works very well. It's just not enough damage. Maybe if your other lanes do a lot of damage, it's okay. But like, Ornn is one of the better tank tank options in the bot lane. Ryze you see occasionally as a specific counter to Vladimir in the bot lane. He can scale up, but he takes a little bit of time, right? He has to get his tier, he has to get his rod. And I think that's just a little bit too slow. I feel like Swain's probably just a better option, but Ryze potentially could work. Ziggs is an old school bot laner. He does have good siege potential. He does have good, poke. He's okay. I think he's really susceptible to ganks. His sustained damage is a little bit low. He does take towers really quickly, but I just feel like Brand is a bit more consistent as far as like an AoE damage dealer, pusher. Brand doesn't take towers as fast, but I think Brand just has more consistent pressure in team fights. Although, I mean, Ziggs' ult does do quite a bit of damage in a fight, so... I mean, Ziggs is okay. I just feel like he is very skill shot dependent, and he just could potentially have some problems bot lane, but he's alright. Kog'Maw's another one, does a ton of damage. I mean, he's a good Rageblade user. He's very, very vulnerable. He has virtually no utility. He does a ton of damage, but he's really, really susceptible to ganks. So that's why I just feel like Varus is a slightly better version, because at least Varus has his ult. Varus has the healing debuff. I feel like Varus is just a little bit better than Kog, a little bit more well-rounded than Kog right now in that respect, and certainly Xayah is, I think. But Kog, if you have the right kind of protection, Kog'Maw can still be a force, so you definitely don't want to underestimate him. Sivir's another one who, in the right circumstance, can be really good. She's excellent with Essence Reaver. Lots of team fight damage if you get a few different items. Excellent push power, utility with her ultimate. Just, her kind of mid-game is really rough. She doesn't have fantastic itemization. Like, Essence Reaver's good, but she still has heavy mana problems early on, which prevents you from pushing quite a lot. She's okay. Quinn is... Quinn's alright. I've seen her do okay bot lane. She just feels very gimmicky. And not usually that strong most of the time, but she can roam really well. I just feel like if you want to do the roam and sneak up on people thing, just play Twitch. I feel like he's just a lot better than she is. Ashe is okay. She's got her ult. It's just the rune situation, the items just aren't that great on Ashe right now. I feel like if you want to place an 80 carry that can start a fight, just play Varus. I think that's going to be a bit stronger. Jinx is just a hot pile of trash right now. I don't like Jinx very much. They gave her some buffs on this patch, but she just really, really needs Critical Strike, and it just takes forever to get it in this meta, so... Not a fan of Jinx. Same thing with Caitlyn. Caitlyn can at least kind of use Stormrazor as like a poke champion, but she just gets busted up. If someone actually sticks to you and starts a fight, you just aren't going to do enough damage. You're going to lose. Vayne... can be good against tanks. If you see something like a Dr. Mundo on the enemy team, maybe Vayne gets a little bit better. I don't know if people are doing the Vladimir and King Ginsu's. Yeah, this is what I predicted people would do. It was either last patch or the patch before. I said I think this is going to be the better build on her. People are at 50% on her. The reason this works is that will trigger your Silver Bolts. I believe every other basic attack triggers those on-hit effects. So you get your bolts a lot more often, and that also helps you trigger your Vladimir and King a lot. So I think that's a pretty good move for her. So I mean, she's okay. She's okay. She just has a really rough laning phase. She's a good counter pick specifically to champions like Ezreal. Because Ezreal can't challenge her early, and then she can run him down later on. So she's historically been a great counter pick to Ezreal. So you can't get away and kite her a lot of the time. Stormrazor's interesting. I still don't like it that much on her, though. Maybe it's like, looks like he may have gotten it third item. But you're seeing her, she's getting picked into Ezreal a pretty good chunk of the time. It's a classic pick. I do not like picking her into Lucian. I think Lucian can bust her up, but I could see it maybe into Xayah. I still think Xayah would mess her up, too. Any of the other duelist champs are probably going to beat her, at least off the first couple of items. But against one of those farming type of champions, like an Ezreal, I think she potentially could be okay. Especially if the enemy team has something like a Dr. Mundo on their team. No, they don't have any tanks. He just must have wanted to play her that game. I don't know what's up with that. But if they have like 2 or 3 tanks on their team, then she can be quite a lot stronger. So if we get the tank meta coming back, if it starts shifting back towards champions like Dr. Mundo, Olaf, Skarner, you know, stuff like that, then I think she could make a comeback. So I don't think this build is that bad. I think it's okay. She doesn't care about the AP side of the nerf, and she really doesn't care that much about the attack damage nerf either, because she's not getting a lot of attack damage. She just wants a lot of attack speed for those silver bolts is the major thing. And for multi-triggers on the Blade of the Ruined King. So yeah, I think she's okay. She might deserve to be a little bit higher, you know. I'll tell you what, I'll move her up a little bit. We can put her over Dinger, I think, confidently. So she's actually like kind of trending upwards a little bit now that people have adjusted these builds. Tristana is still really bad. She definitely requires crit to work, I think. Kallista's an interesting one. I'm kind of curious. I think she's probably still in the doghouse. I haven't seen her alive. She's getting closer to 50%, though. Now, I haven't seen the Gensu's build on her. That's interesting. I don't know if that would trigger double spears or not. Probably not. I'm not sure. I still think I would prefer Blade of the Ruined King, Ruinan's Hurricane. But that's a pretty decent build. I mean, the Blade of the Ruined King nerf helped her. The problem, I mean, she is good early, but she like requires time to stick all of those spears into somebody. So she's not great against assassins that just do a ton of upfront damage. She's better at like these, you know, smaller skirmishes that are going to take a little while. If they buff lethal tempo again or change it in some way to be better for sustained auto attackers, then she could be off to the races. She's very close, I think, to being really viable again. Especially if the tank supports are kind of starting to get a little bit more, you know, picks lately after the nerfs to enchanter items. You're seeing more Brahms, you're seeing more Leonas, Alistars, things like that. Rakan, she's very good with Rakan with her ultimate. So I think she's pretty close. She does have short range, but, you know, Xayah and Lucian are thriving right now, and they also have short range. So, you know, I think there's just a couple more changes really could bring her back in. If they do anything to buff Ruinan's Hurricane, if they buff her ultimate at all, if they give her, you know, I think they just gave her a little bit more. Didn't they give her AD ratio? Let me see. I thought maybe it was just Twitch. I thought they gave her a bigger ratio on her E last patch. How's that going to show us? Let's see. No. I think maybe that was on the PBE. Oh, they did. Okay. So they did give her a bigger total attack damage ratio on her E. So they gave her a little bit of help there. I mean, if they just nudge her a little bit more. See, this doesn't matter. This is nice, but it's only at level 9, and it's only by 5%. And she doesn't get a lot of attack damage to begin with. Right? Because she's going to have Blade of the Ruined King and then usually Hurricane, and that's a pretty low attack damage build. If they change the base a little bit, I think, I mean, I don't know why they don't just give her the ult back, the ult cooldown. It's a really nice, good feeling. It gave her, that was something that was really unique and cool about her, is you could use that to save allies, and you could use it to start fights. I hate it when they nerf ult cooldowns, because I think that ults are some of the coolest, like, most fun aspects in the game for a lot of champs, and really define a lot of champions. You know, a lot of champs are defined by their ults, so I don't know. I don't like it, but anyways, I think she's close. I think she's really close. I think if you're a very good Kalista player, you can make her work in this meta. She is one of the more difficult AD carries to play in the game. She's right up there with like Draven to work effectively, and I think she's getting really, really close to being good again. Just a couple more changes and she can get back in there. So definitely keep an eye on Kalista over the next couple of patches, especially in the pro scene. You might start seeing her creep back in. And then Corki is just, if you remember that champion exists, it's okay. Right, Rory?
Rory's tired.
Are you tired, Rory? She's tired. Are you a sleepy little baby? Are you tired? What are you doing? Okay. Well, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much. I don't want to make it too long. I think hour and 10's okay. We'll eventually try to trim that down a little bit. I'm working on it. Right, Rory? But I also want to be thorough and just let people know.
Yeah, Rory says, good job,
Good job, guys. She says, I'll clap for you if you subscribe and like. Right, Rory? Yeah! Subscribe and
right.
like. Yay!
Like
it helps everybody have fun.
Like and subscribe to my dada.
That's right. But anyways, that's going to be it. So lots of interesting stuff going on bot lane. AD carries are not dead. Most games are still played by traditional AD carries. Most of the strong champions near the top of the list are traditional AD carries. Yes, you've got the brand sneaking in. Yes, you have Vladimir sneaking in a little bit. But by and large, you know, a lot of the top end best champs right now are still going to be AD carries.
And she's saying bot lane.
Bot lane. She says bot lane. I'm going to be a bot laner. I'm going to be a challenger when I'm 5.
Bot lane.
Daddy's still going to be hanging out around platinum, low diamond.
That's
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She'll teach you.
She'll carry me. You'll carry me, right, Rory?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see everybody next time.